ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is in Greater Rustenburg area as part of the build-up to the January 8th statement. He is addressing delegates. Let's listen in.
So that our people must have a sense for it. Yes, they are now working the land, they are benefiting from the land. And therefore, we need to focus and probably do a study on the CPAs in this province. And I'm going to request the Department of Agriculture as well as the Department of Land Affairs for a Bampe report to get a report on the CPAs that are working and the CPAs that are not working, so that we can see how we can resolve some of the problems. He also talks about cut the red tape. And he is absolutely right. There is still a lot of red tape. Started some years ago for a hokatiwe red tape. But we always find for people do, particularly at the officials level, do become either afraid to get things done, they are slow in getting things done, and they increase the time. When you apply for a permit or a license, badula moyo na for months and months and months. Ke ona red tape eo. The red tape must be cut, at a much faster pace. Because when there is slow movement about things like giving permits, like licenses, those who would want to invest, they get discouraged and they walk away. And yet, if we can give them permits at the right time, you'll find that we open up the levers of our economy and make our economy to work much more effectively. So we are going to continue with cutting red tape. And by the way, we are not the only country that has a problem with red tape. All over the world, in many countries, banale problem here red tape. Ukare, Momuso, we love red tape, and I often say, cut the red tape and open up the red carpet so that people can walk in and do business. Homoso, who is in the textile industry, and I was glad to hear her saying that they're in the textile sector here, and they also make shoes. So we want to see what you make. And of course, you say the entrepreneurs are largely women in this sector. And of course, we want to empower the women, but she also complains about there is no market access, and there is a need for training and development now. And some of the incumbents, who are actually stopping others from progressing. Now, ABATA DTIC, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, because they have a number of programs to support businesses, but also the Department of Small Business. We're setting up a fund, for a transformation fund. Transformation fund where we are going to have quite a lot of money that we would like to utilize to support the small, medium enterprises, so that when people want to get funding, they should be able to get easier funding so that they can continue building their businesses. She also says you need industrial working space. Yes, that's one of the areas that we need to pay attention to. As you go around our townships, I have found almost nearly every third house is business. Every third house or fourth house is a business. And if we can set up industrial parks where people can go and rent space and be able to do their businesses, and in that way we'll be creating markets where people can know where to go and buy. And I've often said that let us open township markets. Let us open rural markets. It's the shopping mall fela, because the shopping malls are usually not accessible for small, medium enterprises. And yet, if we can have township markets where everybody knows that if I go to this market, I will be able to get what I need, and therefore they need to be supported by industrial working spaces. It's something that local government should look at, and I'd like local government to start looking broader for it. They must also focus on that. So local government must also give support. Now, I was disturbed. Hakukwa ausi khomotso ari. Now, when they want loans, and I asked her when she came on stage here, how about a loan? There are those who are in charge, the men, babata sexual favors. Now, that must end. We must allow the women of our country to succeed. Oscar Abahuri in charge of something, permitting or loan, when utswantse gore o fe motho assistance, wena bo so tso batlo robala le ene. Till I fele. The women of our country must be given their own right to run their businesses. I have often heard about this, and I have spoken openly about it. Gore banna, if you are in charge of various processes and you have to give either loans, various institutions, or permitting and so forth, do not make demands on the women of our country. Focus on business. Position 8. Malebu wena umojwaleng. Umobialeng yena ke motho wa liquor traders. Steve ke yena o ile nga bua gore biala bo ke 150 billion gore ba nwewa biala mo South Africa. Now, of course, alcohol used properly in the proper limits, there's nothing wrong with it. It is only when the limits are exceeded. Now, wa complain ori the Liquor Act ki yona eba fang problem inyana. But also ori they don't get licenses because now currently there's a dispute. Ukopa hore MEC are level-led into of getting licenses in a proper way. And I would agree with that. This is the red tape issue. Let us cut red tape and allow those who want to trade properly and legitimately. The other problem, of course, is that if we do not permit or give permits, people start utilizing and operating in an unlicensed manner, and they start utilizing or using illicit alcohol. Bailo sebedisa skokia. Skokia na biala bo le boy tsanga go di back door. Take abang le di poison and all that. So let's operate properly in a well-regulated liquor industry. Sipiwe, my sister who comes from Ekona, now this is a wonderful initiative. The business women of our country got together and said they are going to support one another, but they are also going to engage businesses, the corporate sector, to work with them. And they asked me to go and launch their association. And I've been very impressed in the manner in which they are working together. Le babone bo ausi bala baba bedi ba ne ba tlile mo ba bona gore ke bo ausi wa itse ba all right. Ba all right. Ba rana di businesses tsa bona, and we support them, and they also want to get ahead. They also want land They want land to be given to them to advance their own businesses. But they also need the support that government can give them. Now, Mona, we as government need to be lending more and more support. We are working on a process of getting more and more extension officers in agriculture, so that our extension officers can support and assist our emerging farmers. We have a few extension officers in our country, in a country of a number of 3 million farmers. We only have about 2,200 extension officers. That's far too little. So I have said that I want to see the extension officers increased exponentially so that our farming industry can take off for support our farmers. Tourism, I didn't get the name. I was talking about tourism. Tourism is an economic driver, and yes, indeed, tourism is a key driver, and it's one of those sectors that we want to see succeeding. Tourism has a number of subsectors. Some of those are tourist operators. Some of them are lodge owners. Some of them work, for instance, in the food industry, in the transport industry, in a variety of industry, arts and craft industry, and so forth. So through the various funds that we have, we are supporting our tourist industry people. And I absolutely agree that there needs to be more support. For instance, we need more safety and security support. What I've heard is that when a number of people go to Sun City, for instance, they are accosted along the road, and we need safety patrollers along the road so that our tourists can feel safe. But at the same time, we want heritage tourism. Heritage tourism, which Khosi Pilani, when we went to Muruleng, they said that they are working on a project here, heritage tourism, so that we can showcase our history, we can showcase our traditions, we can showcase events that are important in the history of our country. Because as a country, we have a very rich heritage, and that rich heritage needs to be put on display. And through these tourism destinations, we can put the heritage on our country on good display. And so therefore, I agree and I accept how we should do that. We also need adequate information centers for when people come to tour in our areas, quality information centers which they can go to. Now, here is another issue that he raises, where he's absolutely correct. For a payment by government tends to be delayed, sometimes aiyo, muso aole patali, and are patali within 30 days. And we have said that when government does not pay you, it basically is killing your business. That is the quickest way of killing small and medium enterprises. So therefore, we will be continuing to work on making sure the government does pay on time. And we are now going to use various mechanisms for the officials in government. For repayment must happen as quickly as possible. And yes, there needs to be funding for the parks in the Northwest as well. You are absolutely correct. Or the funding maybe is not sufficient, and we need to do that. My sister Charlotte, from the disability sector, people living with disabilities, She sat there, and I'll greet you. Okay, usabile. Oh, cute. I'll greet you when we leave. I couldn't shake your hand. And she complains for it. People living with disabilities are not included in many things. And government has a policy for a 2% yamisebeti yaditiro must be allocated to people living with disabilities. And we are not living up to that. And I always say, even in cabinet, we want departments to show us precisely what they are doing in bringing in people living with disabilities. Isimulle komasipala. Komasipaleng, we must employ our people who are living with disabilities. Kaobani, who batho ba phelang ka disabilities. It does not mean that they are disempowered. They can work, they can think, they can do a whole number of things, and they can even make things. They can create things, and they are also usually very creative. So we do want to move ahead with this, and our Charlotte, we will and I will be insisting that departments in government must employ people living with disabilities. And we must also include them in economic participation. And young people and women who are living with disabilities must be our key focus. The issue of public transportation is another issue that we need to focus on for people who are living with disabilities. Because you're absolutely right, my dear sister, for there won't be economic inclusion or progress without including people living with disabilities. And of course, you are absolutely right in saying you want to be included in policy making. Because yes, quite often, when we make policies, we make the mistake of making policies for able-bodied people. And yet people who are living with disabilities need to be taken care of. I can tell you, my dear sister Charlotte, you have a great advocate, one of the best advocates in government, Comrade Steve. Comrade Steve Litike is one of your great advocates, and she represents your sector most of the time. Even as we are discussing issues, cabinet memos or whatever, she will be trawling through those documents to see whether women and people living with disabilities are included. Simon from Sun City, I don't know if he's still here. Simon from Sun City was saying that Sun City, that whole establishment, is one of our biggest taxpayers in the province. But not only that, it is one of our biggest employers in the province. It's a huge tourist attraction facility that employs people, and so they contribute in tax. And of course, the issue that he was raising here is that we're going ahead to levy a tax without really having deeply consulted with them. And I think he's right, and we should do so. But he also raises another issue, the issue, Yahori, there are those illegal gambling entities that don't pay tax, and we need to focus on them as well. They are the online operators that are not regulated or given permits. Malebu Mukupudi talks about agricultural sector where there is no support, particularly for women. And she is a farmer, and she spoke quite articulately about the issue of support for women in agriculture. And of course, she raises a particularly worrying problem, Yahori. Yes, much as they have land, the land is full of huge bushes because they don't have the implements to debush those areas, and they don't have the machinery And it is an issue that, yes, I would like us to attend to, particularly also for those who are in agriculture. They don't have tractors, they don't have harvesting machinery, and we're working on a project of how we support our small, medium farmers who don't have the capacity. And in other places, they provide some equipment, but we will need to have it more broad-based. The issue of funding has been raised, and the issue of funding comes with stringent conditions that many people are not able to comply with. And she makes a very good suggestion. Or, let's come up with funding models, funding instruments that will allow our people to get funding easier. And I agree, if we can come up with funding models that can crowd in more people, because in the end, running a business requires money. Running agriculture or a farm requires money. So we should be able to support. But she also raises another important point about water licenses. Because in the end, it doesn't help for banking. Do you have a water license? Now, this is where there has been a problem. We've been very slow in issuing water licenses. I know this because in some areas it has taken up to 3 years for people to get water licenses. Now, we attended to this and insisted that the water license issuing must be reduced. As far as I now know, it's been reduced to about 75 days. So go check again. Kabani, we have reduced the period of waiting for water licenses, because water licensing is an important addition for people who want to run their own farms. Now, she also raises another important thing for it. The soil has been damaged in a number of areas by the mines. But she also raises a very important issue of rehabilitation. Now, earlier we had a meeting with Kgosi Molutegi, Leruo Molutegi. He also raised the issue of rehabilitation. We need to focus on what happens after the mines close, because some of them just finish mining and just take off. And we now need to look at the rehabilitation fund. For after mining, the money that they would have been putting away in the rehabilitation fund is utilized for rehabilitating the soil, rehabilitating the area. So we will focus on that, and thank you very much for raising this issue. Dineo Lekuma, Utaka Nafkok, the Secretary General, Yamu Northwest Nafkok. And as of course, Nafkok is one of our valued organizations. They have not only been in existence for 60 years and a few months, they've been an organization that has promoted the empowerment of black business over the years. And we are happy that they are renewing themselves, they are uniting themselves. Yanung, Utsanza ANC le Nafkok. Or no, Nafkok eternally ANC is renewing itself. The ANC is in the renewal phase. We are renewing ourselves. We are getting better at how we do things. We are addressing the challenges that we've had to face over the years. And I'm glad to know for yes, Nafkok is going through the same process, because we want Nafkok, like the ANC, to return to its glory days. So we are very pleased about that. And they want Nafkok to unite, just like they want the ANC to be united. and banali permit, they have a license for bet exchange. Simon, who is in the performing industry, arts and culture, praise the precious name, Precious Simon, who is also energetic. He was very energetic, and he was also not being boastful, but he was giving us information. Yes, they get awards. They get many awards for their acting, their films, and so forth, but they have nothing to show for it. Now, I would say, of course, because in government we don't have a lot of money, but yes, we need to be supporting the arts and culture, film and audio and radio industry. I support that, and he specifically says, support the film industry. Yes, we need to do it as key stakeholders, as the business sector, as government, as well as those who are in the industry. Traditional healers, she spoke very, very eloquently about the recognition that the hospitals need to give traditional healers. Now, in China, they've started a process. There is, in some hospitals, a section, traditional healing, so that when you go there, you're also able to have attention from traditional leaders, traditional medicines. It is something that is being done in a number of countries. We also need to look at how we can do that. And we also need to train those traditional healers so that the interface between health as well as traditional healing can be properly synchronized, and there can be cooperation, particularly when it comes to herbal medication and all that. So he's asking that we should get, or she's asking for a health department should also train them. Baruti Bari, the progressive pastors of SA, they say that Modikolo, they want to see training, they want to see religion being given an important role. And I couldn't agree more, because when it starts, when children are young, it instills discipline. It instills a level of consciousness. I agree with that. And Ukotile the verses are Bible. I just want to say, Muruti, the verses so fellows so the coaching. Kiritzika tohon. Kiritzika toh. How about our go recite the sona? O tompone Harry Hetsamo. The recite the sona. Matthew 7:12. The lady spoke. Those who came last year, I couldn't hear everything they were saying. But the lady, Onaemimo, from the construction industry, she spoke about the need for the construction industry, particularly women, to be supported, particularly in the tendering process, for usually they are put aside and they are struggling. And I will be saying also to the provincial government, let us focus on the empowerment of women. Women in our country need to be supported. Their businesses need to be supported, and where women run businesses, they run businesses very, very successfully. Let us open space for our women to participate. Mashilo complained about illegal mining and also said that there is a problem with the officials in the department. There should be illegal mining. Illegal mining is a broad problem, Abutuak. So we need to look at it from a variety of angles. But of course, where there are specific problems with any of our officials, we want that to be brought to the fore so that we can attend to it. Kaobane, we now want to get rid of funny things, corruption, much more effectively. We want people to bring it to the fore so that we can attend to them. Then there was the issue of localization. I didn't quite get the proper issue that was being raised. I only deciphered what it could be about localization. Where abuto mongunare, ha ho etswa ditente, ho tliswa tente tlhagang Johannesburg, and yet ho na le batho ba etsang ditente gona mo. And eo yona, I support you fully. There's no need for import batho ba tlhagang Gauteng and not support batho ba mo Northwest. And I once went to one of the provinces. It was in the Free State. Ba ilo lata motho tlhagang ko Limpopo gore a tlo aga ko Free State. A tlo aga repairs in a clinic. And I asked, are there no people in the Free State who can do repairs in the clinic? Why do you go all the way to Limpopo? So localization is important. We need to use local people for things that can be done locally. Yes, we can bring others from outside for things that require their expertise. So Aresebedise, Dintota mo local. The last one who really also inspired me is Zanele. Zanele is in the tech industry. Okari, she went overseas, she got funding from overseas in dollar-denominated currency, and she has made great success. I want to thank Zanele for standing up here to sharing. She shared something that I think is really wonderful. And she urges us, and because she has traveled, she has traveled and she says, we do need to have a tech startup type of spaces or areas or industry, and I couldn't agree more. Other countries are doing so. They set up areas where people can go and just come up with their own ideas, and where they can also be funding. Some of them are called, angels who can fund you. Some of them are called a variety of names, and we do need to promote that industry, particularly for tech. I always find, many of our young people are really clever and sharp, and we need to give them opportunities to display and to demonstrate their capability. So what Zanele is proposing is a great idea. I once came here, more Northwest, and I was taken somewhere where they had set up Zanele, an area for tech startups. And I met a number of young people who were doing all manner of things, testing things and all that. We need to broaden that. But yes, please, when we leave, I want to hear you a little bit more about what you were proposing. We want tech hubs so that we can promote technological development in our country and fund our young people so that they come up with ideas. Somebody who works for Google was saying to me, or if they go to other countries, they find many people develop their apps and they make money out of it. And here in South Africa, there are fewer people who develop their apps. And yet there are quite a number of people who are clever, who are very bright, who can develop apps. We therefore need to create more opportunities for those people to develop more and more apps. So Zanele, I'd like to hear you more, and I'd like to applaud you. But I also want to applaud all of you who came forward with suggestions. I have written every suggestion down, and I'd like those that have been put forward as suggestions to be taken forward. This, for me, is very heartwarming and encouraging. For a forum like this has been able to give you an opportunity, but also give us an opportunity here at the table to hear your views and your suggestions. And I'd like you to know for your views and suggestions have not fallen on deaf ears. Some of them are real gems that I'd like to see us taking forward, and we will take them forward. Now, I want to end by saying we are in a period of renewal as a country. We've gone through a number of difficult challenges, some of them local, some of them of our own making where we've made mistakes, and some of them we could not help it because they were just imposed on us. And some of them are global challenges. For instance, when the tariffs were imposed on our country, there was very little we could do, like many other countries in the world, and we have to deal with that. And we are now living through a very dangerous period in the world where mighty countries are doing whatever they like. They are saying might is right because they are powerful, because they can do whatever they like. And Runa, we are a small country, so we have to navigate our way very carefully through the maze of these big and gigantic countries. But at the same time, I am encouraged by you all as South Africans, and I saw your spirit, your real resilient spirit, when we navigated our way through COVID, when we dealt with issues of state capture, and as we are dealing with issues that are challenging, crime issues, unemployment issues. And I want to say we must never lose heart, because we are making progress in a number of areas. And the issue of unemployment keeps all of us here on the stage awake. It especially keeps me awake at night in terms of trying to find solutions. On the way here, I was talking to the Minister of Finance. Good Minister, we need to mobilize more money so that we can create jobs for the young people of our country, so that we can find ways of creating jobs, but also working with the private sector. The private sector is in control of 75% of our economy. So we need to harness them, to mobilize them, to make sure that they work with us to create jobs. We are strengthening the public sector. We're strengthening for Eskom, for Transnet, and making progress on an ongoing basis. The organization that is the leading governing party, together with others in the GNU, is renewing itself, it's repositioning itself, it's rebuilding itself, and it's increasing the level of confidence of our people in its ability to rise again and to demonstrate that, yes, it has capable people who are coming up with solutions. But what encourages me more is people of South Africa. You all who are seated here, I've never seen you lose heart, I've never seen you lose hope, and even today, I've just been so wonderfully encouraged by the spirit and the manner in which you have participated here. So, I want to thank you very much, except Baya Danki, for Alman Fanyele, for you participated in this engagement in a very positive way that you did, and thank you very much for the suggestions that you put forward.